In a galaxy far, far away, there exists a group of fierce and fabulous women who are on a mission to explore the depths of pop culture. They are the Galactic Gals, and they are here to take you on a journey through the cosmos of entertainment. From the latest TV shows and movies to a trip down the Milky Way of nostalgia, they will delve into the worlds of fantasy and imagination, bringing you insights and analysis that are out of this world. So buckle up, cosmonauts, and get ready to blast off with the Galactic Gals Pop Culture Podcast.
Hey, everybody. I know everybody's kind of shocked. No, see, that's what I'm saying. 38 seconds, 38
Oh, hello.
38 seconds. Yeah. So, you're wondering, like, well, where's the other intro? Well, just trying something different, just seeing how it goes. So that was the 38-second Galactic Gals intro. So everyone's was waiting for the other one, I'm sure, but just trying some things different here and seeing how that goes.
If you want the full intro, send $20 to
right.
Andy.
Right. Send $20. So we're back this week with the 90s part due. The little Hot Shots part due joke there. It's really bad. But anyway, yeah, we're back with part 2 this week. And I got some lovely guests today. I've got my husband, Jason. He's joining us today.
Yay.
and then my co-hostess with the mostest, Night Owl 12. And of course, Retro Doc is back as well. So how are you guys doing?
Oh, doing good.
Great.
Enjoying the beautiful weather here for once. It stopped raining finally.
Well, that's good. That's always a plus.
It is.
So we got some great ones for you. Ian was supposed to join us. I don't know. He might be busy filming this week from what I understand. So if he can't join, that's fine as well. But I hope he can. Maybe later he'll jump on and tell us his choices. But I think we should start right in with it. Not going to waste any time. So this first movie is an adventure film. And this is one of Gary's choice, The Mask of Zorro. Yeah.
Yes. I've always been a big Zorro fan. And next to the Tyrone Power movie from 1940, I think this is my favorite Zorro movie. This was a great one. And it was a big hit, 1998. Antonio Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones and Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins, who plays the original Zorro. And it starts like in 1820, and he is discovered. His real identity is discovered, and the corrupt governor comes in, burns his house down, arrests him. His wife dies, and the corrupt governor steals his infant daughter and then raises him as his own. And then 20 years later, the Zorro escapes, and then he recruits this bandit, Antonio Banderas, who was a young boy, used to help him out. To become his protege and train him as the new Zorro and to fight the corrupt governor. So this is a great adventure movie directed by Martin Campbell, who also directed GoldenEye and Casino Royale. So he has quite a pedigree and some great set pieces in this. Catherine Zeta-Jones is great. She is not the damsel in distress. She is right there. There's a great sword fight with kind of a flirty sword fight with her and Antonio Banderas, which is, really great and sexy. And if they'd made a Wonder Woman movie in the 90s, she would have been perfect casting for that role. And there's a big climax at this outdoor gold mine where the governor is forcing all the villagers to mine gold for him. And that's like an extended set piece at the end. It's really well staged. And then, of course, Catherine Zeta-Jones has to find out who her real father is and reunite with Anthony Hopkins and everything. So a lot of really good stuff in this movie. They made a sequel a few years later called The Legend of Zorro with the same 2 stars, but it wasn't nearly it was good. It was all right, but it was nowhere near as good as this one. I mean, I don't know if any of you three have seen it, but
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it. I guess about 10 to 12 years ago. Seems like it was that long ago. It's quite an old. It's an older movie, so obviously, yeah. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a better picture than what they would have done today. I thought the casting was good. I thought Antonio Banderas was a good choice. Of course, Anthony Hopkins is always good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Anthony Hopkins. But yeah, it's a fun one. It's a fun one if you've never seen it. And I don't remember the villain's name, but I thought he was quite good too.
Not Otto, but
kind of reminds me of Alan.
Yeah.
Not obviously
I was actually at the time I was surprised they would take a chance on resurrecting a great character like Zorro, but somebody you think is just not going to play to a 90s audience. And especially a period piece, because it was set like in 1840. But, for me, it really worked.
Yeah.
Didn't they also have a series like back in the 70s or 80s, a black and white?
They did.
Was it Guy Williams?
No, that was in the 1950s. That was Disney did that.
Okay. And they did have a series in the 70s. It definitely wasn't black and white. I did watch it a little bit.
No, you're thinking of there was a syndicated show in the 90s with Duncan.
No,
McGuire.
there was another show. I promise you. I can't remember the name of it right now, but there was another show probably in the 70s, maybe early 80s. I'll have to look it up later and I'll send you the link for it. But yeah, there was another one.
Okay.
There's been several. Yeah, there's been
I know that they did a TV a one-shot TV movie in the 70s with Frank Langella as Zorro, and Ricardo Montalban was his enemy. And that was pretty good.
That'd be interesting. All right,
that's on YouTube. You can find that one on YouTube.
Okay. And I believe that's actually the one I might have seen.
Oh, the one with Ricardo Montalban?
Huh.
All right. Okay, so here's some facts about the Mask of Zorro. Raul Julia was originally supposed to play Don Diego de la Vega, but died before he could take the role. Robert Rodriguez was originally attached to direct, but the studio didn't agree with his much more violent and R-rated proposal. Antonio Banderas is not Mexican. He is Spanish, meaning he shares more in common with the antagonist than the protagonist.
Yeah, because Spain controlled California at the time this is set, and that's what that means.
All right, guys, what's the next one?
All right, the next one is yours and mine, but I'll let you go first. All about Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
No, I mean, I'd rather that's one of you. You go ahead. You can take this one.
Okay, I'll take it. I consider this an adventure film because it is the zaniest thing you've ever seen, but also the most entertaining. Johnny Depp as Ryle Duke, who is basically AKA Hunter Thompson, the journalist, is amazing in this film, as well as Benicio del Toro, who plays Dr. Gonzo, as they go on a trip. Basically, he's a journalist that is going to go to Vegas to write about these motorcycle races in Vegas. And of course, just these two are just the most addicted drug fiends you've ever seen. It's a great movie. It's just a lot of fun. It's from one moment to another, and the cameos in this movie are just entertaining in itself. I love the way the film is actually filmed, the way it's very attuned to the 1970s and the costumes, and Johnny Depp's performance as Hunter Thompson. Obviously, he married him. So I think it's a great film. Without giving too much away, there's some awesome scenes in this movie. One of my favorite scenes in the movie, which is ironically Hunter Thompson's hated this scene, is where Hunter Thompson's waiting for a phone call, and he's there with Dr. Gonzo, and he's being interrupted by this dwarf waiter. And he says, "I think this is the call you've been waiting for." And he picks up the phone and he's talking, and he looks over and the dwarf is still there. And so to get rid of the dwarf, he just takes a handful of change and just throws it away from the table. So the dwarf has to go and pick it up. So again, you're already getting into a very politically incorrect adventure, and I'll let Jason take it from there. I don't know what else to say. It's you would have to watch it to believe it, and it's entertaining from just scene to scene. It's a comedy, and it's like really a comedy and adventure about people doing a lot of drugs and their experiences.
Yeah, this is the kind of show I really didn't get this show when I first watched it. It took me a couple of watches, because my initial watch with this show is just I didn't understand like what the hell was going on. I thought there was supposed to be more of a point to the show, because you watch a movie, it's got a beginning, and then you sort of flesh out the plot, you sort of understand what the trajectory is. This show just sort of meandered around, but that's the fun of it. I mean, that's kind of the whole idea of the show, is there is no real hard plot. It's just them traveling. They've got apparently some agenda. They're basically, like she had said, he's covering a race. That's kind of his shtick with this. But the whole expedition is just shrouded in drug use and insanity. But I guess it's a lot of physical comedy, and I really love the way that Johnny Depp portrays Hunter Thompson in this. I think he did a better job. I can't say he did a better job, but watching interviews with Hunter Thompson, I really liked the way that Johnny Depp portrayed Hunter Thompson versus the way that Hunter Thompson actually acts. If you watch old videos of him, but it's a zany, crazy movie that I personally really do love. It's just an awesome tour de force. And Benicio del Toro's character, I think it's one of his best roles, to be honest, because he throws himself into it. I mean, more so with this than I've seen him in any other role. But yeah, I mean, I highly recommend. It's even if you're not, even if you've never smoked a joint, even if you've never thought about doing drugs, just the way they act is very, I think it's hilarious. There's a lot of scenes that are really hilarious. But yeah, so anyway, I don't know what more to add other than go see it or get your hands on it.
I didn't know that Terry Gilliam did this, which surprises me, that this is a Terry Gilliam movie. I mean, what do you think about this attracted him to this? Because I would not have in a million years thought this would be a Terry Gilliam film.
Well, I'm not shocked by it all, because you look at Time Bandits and how zany that is. And also, he also directed a movie called Brazil. And if you've seen the trailer, I've actually never watched that movie, but I'm thinking about it now. There's a very similar feel. So this doesn't shock me at all. Actually, Terry Gilliam had come on later on this film, and he basically didn't like what they were filming. And he basically took it and said it needs to be more like Hunter Thompson's life. And so he took it on and made it more of what the book is. And as someone that's read the book, it's very, very close. And hello, Ian, by the way.
Yes, hello, Ian.
Hello.
Hey, there.
Hello. Sorry, I'm late.
It's all right. It's all right. So here's some fast facts. According to Johnny Depp, the gorilla statue outside the Bazooka Circus now lives in the front yard. Oh, also the Bazooka Circus scene. If you guys watch this movie, I'm telling you, it's one of the best scenes in the movie. Hunter S. Thompson strongly objected to the scene where Ryle Duke tosses change to the dwarf waiter, finding it distasteful and inaccurate to the character, which I completely disagree. I think he totally would have done that. Benicio del Toro gained 40 pounds for his role as Dr. Gonzo. In the commentary on the Criterion Collection DVD, he said he ate multiple donuts every day.
Does look like that now, doesn't he?
All right, guys, we gotta move on to the next one.
All right, so the next one is Michelle's pick, which is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yes, I saw that. I was in California at the time, and I think Tracy was gone overseas somewhere, and I stayed in that movie theater just watching that movie. It resonated with me for some reason. I don't know why. I guess maybe the total peacefulness of living in the forest, and knowing that Robin Hood, went and would steal from the rich and help the poor. And the song that Bryan Adams sang was actually at our wedding song, Everything I Do for You, because it fits both of our personalities so well. I love the fact that Kevin Costner, I thought he did a fantastic job as Robin Hood. And I know he kept the cloak that he wore, and I always want to make one like that. And Morgan Freeman as the Moor, the painted man. And of course, oh God, brain fart. My thoughts went out. I cannot think of his name.
Which character?
The one with the mustache there. I can't even think of his name.
Alan Rickman?
Yeah, Alan Rickman. God. I mean, my favorite scene is with him when he goes down to see his mother, because I read the book, and he goes down there and he takes that spoon and he's banging it, bam, 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 bam. She's like, something vexes thee. So now that's a running joke in this house. If I'm mad at something, all I got to do is do that same thing, and Tracy will be like, something vexes thee, So it just breaks that little bit of tension. But I love the whole story.
I know.
Storyline is by far my favorite. So
I love this film. Do you know why?
Why?
So when this film came out, okay, I loved it. And at the same time, us stupid Brits made a version as well called Robin Hood. And I went to see both of them. And I had a huge argument with my friends saying, look, this is the way you make a Hollywood Robin Hood film, the Kevin Costner way. If you look at the British version, it was so boring and so dull. And then when the action came, it was just dull. And I had a huge argument. All my friends were going, no, it's more authentic. It's real. I'm like, nobody sees a Robin Hood film, a real Robin Hood film. That's just ridiculous. Robin Hood films are fantasy. And Kevin Costner, even though he was American and he couldn't put on a British accent, it was far more enjoyable than the British version. I don't know if you know the British version. I thought was what came out the same year.
Who played Robin Hood in that one?
I can't remember. Burgess, someone. I can't remember his name, but he's British, obviously, and he was rubbish. There's no charm in that film at all. It was just British people seem to want to make things realistically, or they delve into the dark side of things. And for me, this film was funny. Alan Rickman was hilarious. Do you know what I mean? I just thought this film was so much better. But I get my dumb friend said the other one was better. But obviously they started. Oh, you've got Christian Slater. He's American. You got Kevin Costner. He's American. It's stupid. They could be British. I'm like, F you guys. This is far more enjoyable than a stupid British version. But anyway, sorry, I'll stop there.
Right. So here's some facts about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Alan Rickman turned down the role of the sheriff twice before he's told he could be more or less have carte blanche with his interpretation of the character. Johnny Depp turned down the role of Will Scarlet. Patrick Stewart was considered for the part of Sheriff of Nottingham. 2 years later, he would have a cameo in King Richard and Robin Hood Men in Tights, a film that directly parodies.
That would not have worked, because at that point, everybody was he was Captain Picard to everybody. He could not have sold being the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Right, I agree.
Do you know, Alan Rickman said something, I only saw it on YouTube a couple of days ago. He said, the gag where he was going to, the prostitutes were lining up to see him, and he goes, you 740, you blah, 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 and you bring a friend.
Yeah.
He said, Dawn French. I don't know if you know Dawn French.
Yes.
She was the one that told him that, because he was reading the script and he's going, can you make it funnier? And Dawn French, because he went to lunch with her, said, why don't you say this? And it's because of Dawn French that he said those lines in the film. So it wasn't even in the script. So there you go.
Yeah, I think he wanted to do what he wanted with the character, and I think that's why once he got that, he was all on board. So that's always Alan Rickman needs to be like impromptu anyway. I mean, Alan Rickman's at his best when he's doesn't have necessarily, he can do what he wants with the script. So,
and the producers hated the song, didn't they? The producers hated the Brian, is it Brian? I can't remember who sang it.
Brian Adams.
Brian Adams song was there in the charts for like 20 weeks in England or something.
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
a very popular song. And there's another movie with another Brian Adams song coming up.
Oh,
and was it Morgan Freeman's character, Ian, was inspired by who was it in Robin of Sherwood? that character.
I can't remember.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
right?
I can't remember his name.
I thought, well, that's kind of lifted from.
Yeah, that's another thing my friends moaned about. Oh, the beginning where he comes through the drain hole in the floor. It's like, what is this, New York? Do you know what I mean? It's like, this is not New York. And I'm like, it's a fantasy. What is wrong with you people? There you go.
All right, guys, we got to move on. But let me note here that Americans have a history of making Robin Hood movies with protagonists that have no accent, no British accent. We did that with Richard Gere. We cast.
I can't hear you.
We cast Richard Gere.
Yeah.
As Robin Hood. So.
Yeah.
No, it was Richard Gere as Sir Lancelot.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, First Night, and I actually like that movie.
Oh, was that the one with Sean Connery?
Yes. Yes, it was. All right. So here's Ian's choice.
Brilliant. Oh, it's my choice. Sorry.
Yeah, we're not doing them. Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is Dusk Till Dawn, and I love this film. I like it because it was so well directed by Robert Rodriguez, incredibly well directed. In fact, I learned how to edit because of this film. I must have watched this film like over 200 times just to learn how he does it, because he broke a lot of rules when he was editing this film, and I thought I was like, you can't do that in an edit, but apparently you can. So the one edit in this film that really got me, that I imitate a lot when I'm editing, is the bit where he says, "You be cool" to the guy in the shop. Do you remember that scene? George Clooney has a gun, and he goes, "You stand there," and he goes, "You," and he goes, "Be cool." And when he says "you," it's a mid shot, and when he says "Be cool," it immediately cuts straight to him in a big close up. And I was told when somebody was teaching me how to edit, you shouldn't cut from a medium close up to a huge close up within the same space. But apparently you can now, so there you go. But apart from that, I love this film. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a lot of there was a lot of good jokes in this. The performances were well done. It was directed with pace, and was a very original script, I found, and just the overall good movie. Quite frankly, I don't know what you guys think of it, but I loved it when I first saw it.
I actually had never seen it up until about a week ago.
Oh wow!
When it was your choice, and I thought, well, I'm gonna take the dive. I'm gonna watch it, and I really did love the very first half of the film.
No,
and there's good things. I'm gonna say good things.
Yeah,
but I kind of felt like it, believe it or not, I guess I had this high expectation of what I thought the vampires were going to look like in my mind. Because I'm thinking these things are going to be really scary. They're going to be, and then when they kind of got to that, I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed, because the buildup of the show with his brother, their name was Gecko, but I can't remember his first name. But the Quentin Tarantino character, that guy was creepy. That guy was serial killer. Yeah, he was a serial killer. Serial killer creepy. And I loved all that. I loved their dynamic, because George Clooney was the lesser of two evils, if you could say, you know. And I love that dynamic of them, you know, they're on the run, and, you know, they're doing, you know, it obviously it's Robert Rodriguez, but it felt like a Quentin Tarantino movie on that level. And I realized that he was going to direct it, but he decided to step away and not. But but when I got to the vampires, it was kind of like a letdown a little bit for me. But as a whole, I think the film is very entertaining, though. I think it's definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it. I'll say that.
Was this George Clooney's first movie? He looks so young.
No, it wasn't. The one where, I can't remember the first film he did. One where he played an army general or whatever, and he was running around New York trying to stop a bomb.
The Peacemaker.
Peacemaker, yeah, that was, I like that one too. Thought it was okay. Yeah, I think that was his first major lead in the film.
I saw this movie once. I think Tracy and I watched it, and doesn't it take place in a desert or something?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, eventually.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I went to see it. In England they used to have these days called the £1 day. So basically, you can go to the cinema for £1 because they were trying to boost And I went to see 3 films that day, and the last film was Dust Till Dawn. So yeah.
Well, believe me, Ian, I wish they would bring that stuff back. We used to be able to go see movies for 99 cents. So
Yeah. No more
miss
dollar
those.
store. No dollar stores. No more dollar theaters here either.
Yeah.
No.
All right, so here's a couple of facts. Quentin Tarantino was originally set to direct the movie, but decided not to, so that he could focus more on the screenplay and the role as Richard Gecko, and that's his name, Richard Gecko. Creepy, very creepy, very well. He's a really good actor.
Yeah,
he should act more. Originally, the Titty Twister massacre and fight scenes were longer and a lot gorier, with more deaths of vampires and humans. I probably would have liked it better. Before they were cut for rating and pacing, some work print footage shows all of the uncut scenes.
Yeah. It's a
Right.
good film.
This was R, though, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
weird that they would not.
Definitely
It was
R.
an R movie anyway. Why don't they?
Yes. Well,
know,
there comes a point where it's X at some point, and
Oh,
they want, or
yeah.
NC-17, and they want to avoid that at all cost. Really,
Mm.
it's the death knell.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. The next one is my choice.
Oh.
I like this
So-
film.
Yeah.
Yes, I adore this film.
Mm.
Because it is a horror film, but it's a fun film, and it's obviously, very Robert Zemeckis. He had a part in this, but it's also directed by Peter Jackson, which did an incredible job.
Mm.
About Frank Bannister, played by Michael J. Fox, is a guy that can see ghosts and all kinds of paranormal experiences. But what does he do? He uses it to make money, and he hires these apparitions, like the two pictured, to haunt houses, so he can come in and basically say, "I've cleared you. Now pay me $450, right?"
Mm.
Well, his wonderful plan is thwarted when a serial killer who's kind of based on a Charles Starkweather type, which I love because it has like taking something from real life and kind of like putting it into the movie. Charles Starkweather and his girlfriend killed a bunch of people in a mental institution, and he was executed. Of course, she was sent to a mental institution or in prison, and she got out. And she's played by Dee Wallace Stone, which she's great in this movie. And he comes back to because he wants to beat his record of killing 11 people. So he starts marking people with a blade. And of course, Michael J. Fox can see this, and he's out to stop this thing at some point. Jeffrey Combs plays a crazy FBI agent who's very entertaining in this movie.
Yes.
And it's a great film. It's a lot of fun. And just John Astin plays the judge.
Yeah.
In the film, which he's also very entertaining. It's actually, it feels like a family movie, but it's rated R. You know what I mean?
This is not.
It's not a family movie, but it sort of has a
Manson
movie
family maybe.
feel in a weird way, and it works for this film. And I believe this was Michael J. Fox's last movie, which is, I don't know, it kind of makes me sad.
Well, he did voiceovers, didn't he, after this, didn't he?
Well, yeah, but I mean, as far as being on the screen and being, feeling like this is kind of like he still had that Marty McFly feel to himself, and there was a lot of that. And I just love this movie. I recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
I remember, Andy, about a year ago when you were chatting about this on Discord, and I hadn't seen it since it first came out, and so I bought the DVD or the Blu-ray, which has the and it was only like $9.99, but it has the director's extended cut, which I guess Peter Jackson added in a lot of other characterizations and stuff. And I really liked it. I thought it's good. It is not a Ghostbusters type movie.
It's is in a way,
dark. Though. Well, I mean, for like the overall tone of the whole movie,
right?
Because there's a lot of dark stuff in this. And I remember when it first came out, I think that the poster was just that. It was like this face kind of pushing through.
Oh yeah,
and I remember that they just did not, and I get it. They just did not know how to market this. Because it is not a family movie. It is not a comedy. So it's like in this weird kind of in-between space where, it perplexes marketing people as to how they're going to, give an idea about what this really is, which is probably why it wasn't too big of a hit.
Also a note, I actually watched the director's commentary. I don't know if you did or not, but if it wasn't for this movie, the Lord of the Rings films would not have been made.
Yep.
By the way.
Yep.
Because Peter Jackson had a bunch of computers left over from this film for doing the CGI, and he just needed to do something with them because he felt like it would be a waste of money. So he wanted to use some of those computers to create the first, at least the Fellowship of the Ring, from what I understand.
There's an interesting documentary about the effects that they did in this film. It was way beyond its time, and the effects they actually achieved in this film was remarkable for its time.
Yeah,
especially
it was.
the floating what is it, Grim Reaper thing.
Yeah, and I'm looking at those going, wow, those sure look like the the characters in Lord of the Rings. You know, I can't remember the name, the Wraith or whatever, these Wraith characters. They kind of look very similar to the same kind of look.
Yeah.
I think he just made it even scarier for Lord of the Rings. But yeah, so here's some facts. Michael J. Fox reportedly blew his lines by calling the judge Doc, the name of Christopher Lloyd's character in the Back to the Future 1985 trilogy.
Yeah.
And Charles Starkweather, the real-life killer referenced in the movie, killed 11 people and 2 dogs. God, what an asshole. During a nearly 2-month killing spree, his 14-year-old girl, Carol Fugate, accompanied him for and participated in most of the killings.
Wow.
So, moving on. We'll move on.
Well, before you do, let me just say, is it just me, or does this guy in the blue here on the screen, does he not look like Christopher Lloyd? As you know,
it's a little bit. Yeah.
His jaw falls off, as I recall.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah.
His character was very funny. I enjoyed his character quite a bit. All right, so moving on. Here's another Jason's choice.
Oh wow.
Jacob's Ladder.
This film was crazy. I didn't understand it at all when I watched it. Sorry, carry on.
So this show basically follows this character Jacob Singer, who comes back from a tour in Vietnam. He's seen a lot of action, and he has a major incident over in Vietnam. Looks like a wound that could potentially kill him. But yeah, you follow his trajectory back from Vietnam when he comes home, and everything starts out fine. And then over the course of the movie, he starts to descend into this, I don't know, he starts having visions of different stuff. You know, he starts seeing different things that if the average person saw, you'd be pretty blown away. I mean, just terrifying stuff. I'd like to say that the show is, I don't know, let me see how to put it. There's a lot of, I guess for a lot of people, I would consider this a really gritty, realistic portrayal for a horror show, which those were right at my alley. I put it in the same category as I would the way that they tried to put a realistic element on it. I put it in the same category as something like The Exorcist or something along those lines. Completely different story, but in terms of how it's portrayed on screen, it's very much a very realistic portrayal. And for me, I love that because you don't know in the show, you don't really understand whether the things that he's seeing are a product of his mind or if there's something actually there. So yeah, you're not even up until the end. There's a lot of people like Ian that just don't fully understand exactly what the show. It does have. I mean, there is a point to it. I mean, there is an actual story there, but if it is kind of more of a cerebral. You do have to kind of think about the incidents in the show to piece it together. But it's I would say for some people, it's still, even today, I think there's some scenes that would be disturbing for some people. But for me, I love the show just because of the realistic portrayal. I like the mystery of not knowing really if what you're seeing is a product of his mind or if there's something real there. And I mean, I would give more of it away. I would divulge more, but to do so would be kind of to to give a little too much of the show away, because I really don't want to divulge the crux of it. But I mean, you obviously saw it, Ian.
Yeah.
So what was your impression?
Well, I saw it a long time ago, and then I catched it on Channel 4. It's obvious the man is mad, as far as I was concerned. That's what I took. That's what I took away from me. Obviously, suffering from whatever it was, what they call it these days. From Vietnam, but yeah, he was, as far as I could.
Thought he was off his rocker.
Well, that's the thing. You see, it's one of those films where you have to make up your own explanation for it. In my opinion, of course, I obviously people see it differently, but I mean, it's not a film I would want to see again. Though it's pretty hard going as far as I was concerned. But it's very well performed. By Tim
It's a
Robbins.
show. Well, I'll tell you this, just to kind of give you a little more perspective. You know, think about the fact that this man suffered a very grievous injury in Vietnam. That injury is kind of reflected throughout the show. You see incidents throughout the show where he's laying on the table. Yeah. And it's connected with the story. I'll just say that injury that he sustained in Vietnam is heavily connected with the overall story. And it's weaved into the story. It's very connected, intimately, pivotally connected. I mean, you know, so.
Who directed it? Sorry.
Adrian
who?
Adrian Lin.
Oh, okay.
Ryan or Lynn?
Okay.
Yeah, he actually directed Fatal Attraction.
Oh, Adrian Lin. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, as I said, it's not a film I'd go back and see again. And also, is this on DVD, or I think it's one of those films that is not available anymore, like Cocoon.
It is. I believe it is on DVD.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah, we have it on DVD. Actually, I have a copy of it on DVD. I don't have it with me, or else I'd probably give it to Andy to show on camera. But yeah, it is on DVD. Okay. I don't know if it's on Blu-ray, but it is on DVD. But anyway, did you have any fast facts to add that you?
Sure. Served as a major inspiration to the early games in the Silent Hill video game franchise. Macaulay Culkin's father felt that the movie did not fit his son's image. Therefore, he requested his son's name be removed from the credits. Culkin portrayed Gabe, Jacob's deceased son. All ads in the subway in Bergen Street station are anti-drug ads.
But I will say that the show. I will say this does have a story, though. And I'll also say he's. No, I'm not going to say that because it'll give too much away.
I actually just checked Amazon. It's on Blu-ray for $10 and it's on DVD for $7.
Oh wow! I thought it was one of those because I've never. I mean, ever since I saw it in Channel 4, which was over 20 years ago, I've never seen. I've never seen it on DVD or Blu-ray. I haven't seen it anywhere. Yeah, still there. There then.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, we can move on.
All right. Here's another one of your choices, Ian.
Oh God! Total Recall. We don't know
who this number. I've never heard of this movie. No,
I never heard of this.
Total Recall, directed by Paul Verhoeven, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
The thing about him is that he loves his blood in his films. He's really into the violence of movies, but the way he portrays it. I mean, him and Tarantino, they portray the violence as something. You can't really take it seriously. No, none of the violence in this film you can take seriously at all, in my opinion. And very much into grotesque things, old Van Hooven, and same thing with not the same with Tarantino. Tarantino loves his blood, whatever. But I can't remember what nationality Paul is. Is he Scandinavian or something like that? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
Is he? But he has that kind of
Dutch.
He's Dutch, right? So he has that kind of European kind of filmmaking feel to it, if you know what I mean. So even though this was, I can't remember where this was shot. I don't think it was shot in America, was it? This film? Anybody?
I don't know, but it's interesting because our last stream we talked about The Fifth Element not being a very American film.
Yeah,
either.
because you can see it's very different to the American design, isn't it? From The Fifth Element, it's the same thing with this one as well. You could tell. I think it was shot in Mexico or something like that. It was half American shooting in Mexico. Was it Mexico? I can't remember, but I know it wasn't shot in America.
Yeah, it
But,
says, according to Wikipedia,
yeah.
it says it was filmed almost entirely on sets at Estudios Churubusco in Mexico City.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah. I mean, you can somehow you can feel it. I don't know about you guys, but you can feel it when it isn't been shot in America. You can kind of feel it, if you know what I mean. So, but I love this film because I love Arnie. And Arnie gives out the one-liners in this film, and goes around shooting people and stuff, and it's just a glorious movie with loads of violence and grotesque puppets and stuff like that. I just loved it when I first saw it, and a kicking soundtrack from Jerry Goldsmith. It's just entertaining right the way across, in my opinion, and a really good mystery as well. You didn't know whether he was dreaming, because I never read the book, right? Didn't know whether he was dreaming, whether everything that was happening was true. Just entertaining all the way through. Arnie was his peak there, wasn't he? And yeah, what can I say? I really love this film. Any takers?
And this was like, I know that Sharon Stone had been in some smaller movies before, but this was like her first big movie, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was I liked it. I thought this was a really fun show myself. I mean, look, it wouldn't have been like in my top 10 of because I like shows that portray things in a realistic fashion, but this was a real fun show. I think they did a real good job with the production. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was fun in it, but he was, he tried to play it, I think, more serious than a lot of his shows.
Yeah.
Definitely. But yeah, it was a fun show. I think it was a product of its time, but I think it was very fun.
It's funny because he cast some people from RoboCop in this, didn't he? He cast Dick Jones, the guy who played Dick Jones. I think he was the villain in this one as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So, and my friend Michael Ironside was in this as well. Just made me laugh. See at the party, Richter. I always thought it was Victor, but it wasn't. It was Richter. I always thought Arnie was pronouncing Victor wrong, but it is spelled Richter, basically. So, I don't know about you guys, but I really like this film. Thought it was a lot of fun.
I haven't watched it in years.
No.
I haven't watched it in years, and it was never one of mine that was just like I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like one that I was just like, oh yeah, I need to watch that again. But hey, everybody's different. Everybody likes.
I like this one better than the remake they did with Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
I like this one much better than that. The one with Colin Farrell looks good, but it just doesn't have the personality that this has. This has a lot of personality, in my opinion.
Also, the wonderful model work in this film, and the pyrotechnics in this film as well. And also, I love the bit where he pulls that thing out of his nose. It was obviously
no.
I haven't seen this in years, but the one thing I remember is when they all get tossed out into the atmosphere at the end, and their faces are distorting, and they're like half a second from blowing up, and then they add back the atmosphere, and then they're perfectly fine. I remember sitting there going, "Oh, come on!"
As I said, as Jason said, it's a product of its time, and it was very in vogue. Was very much the building a head and making it separate or something like that. Because remember when he dressed up like the woman and he took the head off and the head separated, and then he came out. You know what I mean? It was very much into that stuff in at that time. So it is a product of its time, but it's still worth another watch. If you
and I think it's serious enough that it's not just a fun show. I mean, this isn't like True Lies, okay? But it is. I think it's a good show. It has a good balance of being, kind of serious, but also being just fun. I think that's they rode that line real well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
All right. This is one of the last major Hollywood blockbusters to make large-scale use of miniature effects as opposed to CGI. It was also one of the first major Hollywood blockbusters to use CGI mainly for the scenes involving X-ray scanner and have it look photorealistic. Arnold Schwarzenegger took the part because he liked the idea of virtual travel. The scene where a salesman sells him the trip he never took was one of the Schwarzenegger's favorite scenes in the movie. All right, so moving on. This is Michelle's choice, kind of along the lines of, fun, 90s movies.
Yeah, Demolition Man, Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone. You got him playing this cop that they put in the freeze after they put, Wesley Snipes' character in. And you got I guess your bad government entity or your bad guys or whatever. And they pull Snipes out and he's doing this crime and everything. And of course, to stop an old fashioned criminal, you got to have an old fashioned cop, so they thaw him out and you got, your two separate societies. Oh, wow. Imagine that, kind of like today's world. But, I think it's definitely pretty good, entertaining. One of my favorite scenes is when he's driving the police car and it can drive by itself, and then something happens. He's in a chase or something, and the car turns into a cannoli. They have all this like foam in there that keeps him from getting hurt. And if you look at that parallel in our vehicles today with all the airbags, it's like, okay, well, we're moving along technology wise. Sandra Bullock and singing her little commercials and everything, and I thought that was funny. And it's a great film. I like the whole idea of the cop coming back from the past, chasing down this bad guy, the new society trying to deal with this bad guy and the new cop, and they're offended at everything he says. You swear and you get fined, and you got to figure out what the 3 seashells are, and we don't know what the 3 seashells are. And it's pretty good movie, very entertaining.
It's almost like if you watch it now, though, you see so many parallels with stupidity in the world that we have now that it's almost not as much entertaining because you see so many. It's so close. It's so close with thought police, and it's almost it's sadly almost like that. At the time, it was funny because we never thought it was going to happen,
right?
and now it's close to it. So yeah, I did rewatch this recently, and I kept thinking, oh my god, it's like that now.
And I like when he's, because doesn't he like knit a sweater or knit something because he's rehabilitated?
That was the thing is that the powers that be, they wanted him to have not as much skills as a Wesley Snipes character, so they made him his perfect rehabilitation skill was knitting sweaters. And Wesley Snipes was like, he had computer hacking, all these things. So yeah.
Wesley Snipes was having a ball, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had the skills that I wanted. I want to be a hacker, but no, far from it. It definitely a fun movie for sure, and going out to Taco Bell was like going and dining at the Ritz or something, It's like, wow.
Oh, you mean Pizza Hut? Everything was called Pizza Hut?
Yeah.
Made no sense at all. I was going to say. It made no sense. Do you know why? Because how would you know, okay, which restaurant's which? If they're all called Pizza Hut.
Oh, man.
I want to go to Pizza Hut tonight. Well, which one? Like, you have to know the menu so that, anyway, it's something, that was one thing that I was like, okay, how do you know which restaurant?
Sandra Bullock, though, you could tell. I remember watching this film and thinking Sandra Bullock's incredibly cute. I kept thinking to myself, well, one day she's going to be a star, and she was.
Yeah, she was.
She did, yeah.
Still is.
A huge star, yeah.
All right, so here's some facts. Sylvester Stallone described this cryogenic freezing scene as probably the worst 5 hours I've ever had on movie sets. I was terrified. San Angeles was going to the name of the city in Blade Runner. And Wesley Snipes' shoulder pads are made of tire treads and other car parts.
Just a fun fact from Wikipedia. It says that in 2020, Stallone said a sequel is in development.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, okay.
How can you make it worse?
They don't even need a
make
studio.
It worse
they
than now.
They can just take a camera and drive around LA.
Right.
They don't even need to build a set.
It doesn't need to be set in the future. It'll be set just modern day.
That's
right. Oh, my gosh.
It's a very entertaining film, though, isn't it? Because halfway through, the Sylvester Stallone character finds out that the bad guys don't want to wipe from existence. They're the real good guys, aren't they? So halfway through is a twist, isn't there, in the film? So yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
All right. So here we're to another Gary's choice.
Oh yeah,
The
so
Three
this is me.
Musketeers.
So an adventure. I'm not going to go over the story because everybody knows the story of the Three Musketeers. I actually just really like this because, I mean, there's a lot of star power in this movie. We got, Charlie Sheen, Kiefer Sutherland, and Oliver Platt are the main Three Musketeers, and Chris O'Donnell is D'Artagnan. We've got Tim Curry, who is beyond perfect casting for Cardinal Richelieu, and Rebecca De Mornay is the treacherous Lady De Winter, who turns out used to be married to Kiefer Sutherland's character until he found out that she was a murderer. And you have D'Artagnan trying to avenge his dad, who used to be a musketeer, by becoming a musketeer himself. And at first, the other Three Musketeers don't want him. And then you have Tim Curry trying to grab power from the King of France, and the Musketeers are trying to stop him. So, I mean, it's absolutely an adventure film. I actually think it's one of the better. The last time they did a Musketeers movie before this was this kind of two-parter that they did back in the 70s. But I really like this. I mean, it's whether you're a fan of the original book or the other movies, I think this stands up very well in that. There's even Paul McGann, who plays this kind of foppish guy who's out after D'Artagnan for sullying his sister's honor and stuff. And he has the last visual gag in the movie is kind of Paul McGann is there for that. So overall, I just I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's well directed. Like I said, totally star power driven, but it makes excellent use of all the cast. And so I recommend it.
I think
This
I saw
was
it
a Disney
once.
film, shockingly.
Yeah.
Well, it's in the days when being a Disney film wasn't a black mark that it is today. So,
You forgot to mention Robin in the film. The guy who played Robin.
oh yeah, Chris O'Donnell.
Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah, he plays. I guess maybe this is his way of kind of warming up for the Robin role later on.
Well, I heard that they had problems casting him. The because he looked like a boy, then he looked like they had problems casting after he did Scent of a Woman. They had problems putting him into films, didn't they? And he ended up in that long running TV show, didn't he? In the end of the day, so he was primed for stardom in movies, but they just couldn't place him anywhere.
Yeah, and I think Scent of a Woman, I think, was only like 2 years before this one.
Yeah.
And the first, was it Batman?
Batman and Robin.
Robin. No, that was the fourth one. What was the third Batman? Batman Forever.
Yeah.
That was the one with Val Kilmer. And that was only, so that would have been only a couple years after this one. So yeah, he was kind of right in the middle of all that.
Yeah, I do prefer the Silkines version of the Three Musketeers.
Yeah, that was the one that's basically a 4-hour movie that they split into two.
Yeah, I prefer that than this one. This one was fun though.
All right, here's some facts. Tim Curry played a role previously played by Charlton Heston, something he did again in Muppet Treasure Island. And since Gary took my second
sorry.
trivia.
Well, I had to mention come on.
And then Sam Raimi was considered for directing the film, which would be a completely different film, probably.
It probably would have been better film.
I don't know.
He's a great director.
Is this like Sam Raimi's like oeuvre? I don't know that this is his. He could have done it, but I don't know that this is his.
Well, he did Spider-Man, but that was a different thing too.
You know what? The character, and I can't remember his name there, in the upper right corner, the Richelieu's henchman with the eye patch, who's really good in this. If Sam Raimi had done it, that role would have been played by Bruce Campbell.
Probably.
Oh yeah.
And he would have been.
Oh yeah.
really-
Bruce
he-
Campbell would have been in the show.
Yeah, he would have been really good. I don't know that. I mean, Bruce Campbell could have even have been a Musketeer. I mean, that would have been.
I feel like he would have been better used, but he would have been entertaining anyway. Regardless. All right, moving on. Here's another one of Jason's and mine pit because
Love
I
this
don't know.
film.
We're just
Love this film.
I'll be your Huckleberry.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, this show, I saw this in the theater when it was originally released. I really wasn't expecting much because I'm really not into Westerns per se. I mean, I can only count on maybe 2 fingers. And this is just one of the fingers that I would give a thumbs up to. Obviously there's a lot of people that are familiar with the gunfight at the OK Corral, and this sort of tries to capture the events leading up to and beyond that. And it is, in my opinion, a very kind of blockbuster-ish way to kind of showcase the event. But the way that they had done it, I mean, I was taken aback. Had a great cast. I mean, Kurt Russell is Wyatt Earp. You have Doc Holliday, Val Kilmer playing Doc Holliday, and Michael Biehn. I forget what was the character's name. I can't remember.
It was a Ringo.
Yeah. Johnny Ringo. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So really for me, the pivotal event in this show was not the gunfight at the OK Corral. That was okay. I mean, that scene was nice. I mean, there's some action, but there's so many scenes in this show that, I mean, I'm kind of a sucker for shows that have a showdown in some capacity, where you've got a guy who's kind of the underdog and then he's facing off against a bully, or it could be any show like that, where the odds are kind of stacked up, but you've got a real powerful guy and then a guy, maybe 2 powerful forces that face off. And this kind of played into that. You've got the Earps, who, the way they portray them in this, they're just guys you just really don't want to mess with. Yeah. And the cowboys, who are kind of, run this town. That's kind of what sets that kind of is the trigger point for the whole show. So, like I said, the gunfight at the OK Corral itself was not that pivotal. The one scene that, just to give you an example, the one scene that I really liked that kind of drew me into the show was a scene where, this basically follows Wyatt Earp, who at this point, he's a retired gunfighter. He's, retired lawman, I should say. And just wants to settle down in a nice little town. Has seen his share of violence and gunfights and so forth. And so they make their way, like him and his brothers make their way to this little town. And I can't remember the name of the town, but they make their way to this little town and they're going to settle down there. And
Tombstone.
Say again?
Tombstone.
Tombstone, yeah. Well, I mean, look, I'm not one for the historical. I don't have the historical knowledge regarding Tombstone. I'm not a historian on the subject. So if it's called Tombstone, great. But yeah, you could have told me it was any name, and I would have been like, oh, okay. But yeah, so basically in this one scene, the scene that kind of drew me into the show, you got Wyatt Earp walking into one of the local saloon.
Yeah.
And Billy Bob Thornton plays this card dealer who is dealing at his table. And basically the bartender tells Wyatt Earp's character, Kurt Russell's character, that, he's kind of wondering why the bar looks empty. And the bartender tells him, well, it's so-and-so over there. He's the card dealer. It's Billy Bob Thornton's card dealer character. And so Wyatt Earp just kind of observes, and Billy Bob Thornton's being a real jackass, yelling at people and yelling at the card players there and being a real nuisance. And so Wyatt Earp kind of steps in and walks over to him and tells him, something about, you're sitting in my chair, or at least I think you're sitting in my chair. And, Billy Bob Thornton doesn't he really isn't very understanding. And the scene just basically plays out with Kurt Russell's Wyatt Earp character just shaming the guy, just really shaming the guy. But the scene was really, I'm not really capturing the essence of it, but the scene itself, I love the way Kurt Russell handled the scene and handled Billy Bob Thornton. And incidentally, the real interesting part about that scene, which I wouldn't have known, was that Billy Bob Thornton ad-libbed the entire scene. That there was no hard script for that. So they just told him to play a bad guy, play a bully. And he did a really great job. So overall, though, I would say the movie for me, just like I said, I love the way that they have these, I want to call them showdowns, but these confrontations between the two sides. That's what I love about it. So anyway, it's kind of my synopsis.
And this was also my pick too. And all I can say is Val Kilmer is, to me, really shown in this movie. Just the way he acted, just the sarcasm. One of my favorite scenes in the whole show is where he's playing the piano, and he's playing, obviously a classical artist in this doofus, and I don't remember the guy's name. He was like, Camtown Races, and he's really being really annoying and singing all these songs, that everybody knows. And then he says, so what are you playing? He was like, it's a nocturne. He was like, by Frederick fucking Chopin. And I'm like, as soon as I heard him say that, I'm like, okay, me and you are spirit animals. I love the sarcasm. I love the way that when he stood up with Ringo in the saloon when they were playing cards, and he basically said, you remind me of me. And I think that's why he understood that Johnny Ringo, and that's at the end of the movie when he's explaining to Wyatt Earp, what kind of person Ringo was, is he knew because he was that person. He was that person with a deep hole. And I thought that was the performance of him explaining that to Wyatt Earp was just amazing. And this is just a good film. I mean, you have Powers Booth, who was great as Curly Bill.
Yes.
I mean, the well by is it's an iconic GIF, it's so iconic. Everybody uses that GIF, and it's a powerhouse. It's a great film. And again, I'm not a Western. I'm not a Western fan either. And it's just a great film.
It was up against Wyatt Earp, wasn't it? It's the same thing with the Robin Hood films. Came out at the same time, and the two films came out. Kevin Costner's version, which was Wyatt Earp, and Tombstone. Tombstone was far more enjoyable. That's what happens when you got filmmakers that want to take a subject that's pure fantasy and want to add realism to them, to those subjects. It doesn't work. If it comes from a fantasy world, it should be treated as such, with a balance. And Kevin Costner took Wyatt Earp, and he basically tried to make it as realistic as possible, and people just didn't go to see it. They went to see this film instead, and this film is the better film. Also, another fact that nobody knows, or some people do know it, is that the director didn't really direct this film. You know who directed this film? Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell directed this movie because the director was having a hard time, and I think he left halfway through. And he's not credited.
Wow.
But Kurt Russell literally took the reins of this film because he believed in it.
It's weird. It says it has two directors, George P. Cosmatos and Kevin Yar. Kevin Yar is the one that wrote it.
Yeah, I think he came in, but he couldn't handle it. And the rumor is that Kurt Russell was the one that took over.
Wow.
And mostly directed scenes and stuff and rewrote bits and stuff like that. So, but as I said, if you look it up on the internet, there is that huge rumor that that's what he did. So whether it's true or not, who knows? But I think it's true personally.
If you're not into Westerns, I recommend you try this show. I'm not into I'm not really into Westerns. I mean, there's a couple, but like I said, this is just one of maybe out of the two or three that I do like. So anyway, we got to move on.
Well, just one second really quick. I just wanted to say, I love Powers Booth's character in this because I love the red. I remember because there are colors in this movie that you normally don't see in Westerns. You see the black, you see the gray, you see the dirty brown, but I remember seeing him say he wanted to wear that because, that's like a realistic color that people actually wore, but you never see things like that in westerns, which go for the dirt tones and everything.
Mhm.
So no, I thought it was really good. Although I agree with you, Jason. Jason, can you just really quickly say Kurt Russell's immortal line from this movie? Yell it out.
Is it Kurt Russell's immortal line? Or
Yeah.
are we talking Doc Holliday?
No, about hell.
Oh,
Where,
what was that line? Dude, it's been so long. I actually did
doesn't
not
he say
watch
just
this for the lead up to this.
and hell's coming with me, or something
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
something like that.
That's a great line. Although normally, if I watch the OK Corral, I expect to see Kirk and Spock in it, or the First Doctor. And it's hard. That's my OK Corral is on Star Trek.
Yeah, the bullets are not real. They can't harm you.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Spock coming and doing a mind meld on Kurt Russell. That would have been great.
Okay, so a couple facts. Doc Holliday's wink to Billy Clanton just before the culmination of the OK Corral gunfight was completely improvised by Val Kilmer. When Virgil returns to the saloon and collapses after being shot, Kurt Russell accidentally bangs Sam Bailey's head on the bar as he lifts him to play him flat on the floor.
Echo.
Yeah.
No, this is a great choice.
All right, so moving on.
Oh, me again. So throughout the 90s, of course, we all know there was a slew of Die Hard on a
That's
Blank.
not you. That's Peter Bocaldi.
Yes, well, my spirit guide, Peter Capaldi. I mean, there was a ton of Die Hard on a Blank movies.
Yeah,
Die Hard on a Bus, which is Speed. Die Hard on a Ship, which is Under Siege. And this one, again, Kurt Russell, I remember just really, really, really enjoying this when I first saw it, because you think Die Hard on a plane. But it works. Basically, the 747 is hijacked by these terrorists who want another terrorist leader released, but then they realize there's like a bomb on board, that they might actually be heading it toward Washington. And Kurt Russell goes up with this group of commandos led by Steven Seagal. He's just a consultant. And he's there with Oliver Platt, which is like a civilian engineer. And they're basically just going to help get the commandos into the plane by this little stealth thing, which will come underneath it and then connect to it in like this little access tunnel. But something goes wrong. There's damage. Steven Seagal character, is killed, and Kurt Russell and Oliver Platt are stuck on the plane when they were never meant to be. And one of the other, the commandos is injured, and they've got to make the best of it, basically. And so even though they're basically confined to the undercarriage and then accessing the overhead through one of the dumb waiters, that's basically all that they can do. And so Washington actually doesn't even know they're alive, but they actually made it onto the plane. So they're going to try to shoot the plane down before it gets into United States airspace. And Halle Berry plays this stewardess who Kurt Russell remotely, gets help from. She finds out they're there. He tries to get her to help. And for a fairly unbelievable premise, you think, well, how can you do Die Hard when there's not like a whole building that you can play around with? Even in that confined space, it works really well. Kurt Russell's terrific because he has to become kind of the de facto leader to try to figure out how to make the best of this situation. Oliver Platt's there, out of his element to try to help him kind of defuse this bomb. And it works. Like I said, there was a lot of similar type of Die Hard kind of clones in this decade, but I really think that this is one of the more enjoyable ones. Especially if you're a Kurt Russell fan and haven't seen it, it's definitely worth your time because he's really solid in this one.
I did like this film. I cheered when Steven Seagal got killed. I don't really like him.
Yeah, he only lasts like about the first like 15 minutes, and actually
Yeah.
he's actually pretty good in those 15 minutes. But yeah, no, you're right. It's like, oh, okay, well, I wasn't expecting Steven Seagal to die so soon.
What was his? I haven't seen the show. What was Steven Seagal's role?
Steven Seagal was is the leader of the commandos they were going to attach
Take
to the
off the
plane,
Storm the
yeah.
ship.
get up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
No, not storm the ship. Get up into the plane and then detach the thing, and then they'd be on the plane, and then they could figure out the best way. They could figure out how many terrorists there are, where they're located, and all that. But what they didn't know is there's a sleeper agent. They find out there's a sleeper agent somewhere among the passengers who has the code to detonate the bomb. So they've not only got to figure out how to fight the terrorists, but find out who the sleeper agent is in one of the seats to try to stop them. But when somebody gets injured, Kurt Russell and Oliver Platt go into the plane to help get him onto the plane, and they were going to go back down.
Yeah.
Steven Seagal was then going to come up. But then something goes wrong with turbulence and everything. There's a fracture in the connector thing. And to prevent him from depressurizing, Steven Seagal's got to kind of lock it off, and then he gets blown out with.
Well, he does. The thing about the Steven Seagal character is that he does sacrifice himself, and he says, "We're not going to make it, but you will." And he pushes the thing, and then he flies out.
Yeah. Have you not seen this one, Jason? It's worth your time. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I've, I may have seen a lot of clips of it, but I am a little surprised that Steven Seagal took this role, because every movie he's in, he never dies.
I think,
can you name a single Steven Seagal movie where he's even hit one time?
What was that about?
Hard to Kill.
What was that about, Ian, that he would do this role and get?
He was under contract with something. I can't remember when he did Under Siege. He was under contract with the studio, so he had to do it. He didn't want to do it, but they made him do it.
Oh,
So I think that is the explanation. But apparently, he did get knocked out in one film by who's the boxer? The the guy that bit someone's ear off. What's his name?
Oh, Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson was in the film, and Mike Tyson knocked him out apparently in one film. So he did get knocked out eventually. So
he has since requested that this movie be taken off the market.
Really?
And
I'm being facetious.
We talk about directors, and this is directed by Stuart Baird, who went on to direct two not so good movies. He directed U.S. Marshals, which was the kind of really inferior sequel to The Fugitive.
It was. Yeah.
And he also directed, to our eternal regret, Star Trek Nemesis.
Oh, did he? Oh, of course, him.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this one's a solid. This one is a solid action.
They didn't.
I actually like Nemesis, as you know, so that hurt, Gary. That hurt.
they didn't know how to sell this film, as far as I remember. Even the poster was just had Kurt Russell's face on it. There's not really doesn't really speak action, does it, or thriller, does it? It's weird. It did do well though, as far as I remember.
Back in the days when the movie poster would explain the plot, like you can see there.
Yeah. But
it struck me a lot as a show that Harrison Ford might have
comparing it to what was that other one called? The one where he was president? Air Force One. Yeah. Air Force One is far more fantastical than this one. This one's kind of grounded.
This, in a way, is almost kind of, I think, Ian, you just mentioned like Mission Impossible. This is almost kind of like anti-Mission Impossible because it's one of these movies about everything goes wrong. And so they basically are improvising throughout this whole movie in situations where they're down men. There's an extra element that they weren't counting on, which like the sleeper agent and stuff. And so as opposed to Mission Impossible, where every single thing works like clockwork, this is like the polar opposite of that, to where everything is going wrong, but they've still got to try to finish their mission.
All right, guys.
All right. Here's some facts. Knife maker Jeff Crane made the knives used by John Leguizamo and B.D. Wong. Seagal is carrying a Gerber Mark II dagger, the same knife he used in Under Siege. The film portrays the hijacking of a plane to be used in a terrorist attack, much like the attack on the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001. The flight number is 343, which is the exact number of firefighters killed on September 11th.
That's eerie.
All right. Yeah, a little creepy.
Mm.
All right, so we have another Ian pick here.
Tomorrow never dies. Love this film. Love this film. This film is probably the best Pierce Brosnan James Bond film ever made. Actually, it is, tell you the truth. This film is quintessential James Bond. He's so much better in this one than he was in GoldenEye. It's just fun from start to finish. It was made in a hurry, would you believe? This film was completely made in a hurry because they were making most of it up as they go along. The only thing that spoils this film is the end sequence, which doesn't work very well. James Bond was just going around shooting people. There wasn't really any tension there. But I love the set pieces. I love the bike sequence. I love the beginning sequence where he's in the plane and he has to get the bombs away and stuff. That is just so brilliant. Obviously, the villain is the villain. He does what he does at the end of the day. Michelle Yeoh is fantastic in this film. And then you got I can't remember her name now. Her from Superman, Terry
Hatcher.
Terry Hatcher was absolutely gorgeous in this film. This film is a brilliant James Bond film. This is what they should be doing now as James Bond. This has gadgets, it has excitement, it has fun, has a good-looking lead, it has a Bond villain. You can class him as a Bond villain. It's got gadgets, it's got a great car chase in a car park, which is absolutely brilliant. And it's got a great Q scene. The Q scene is just one of the best ones ever. I love this film. This is one of the best Pierce Brosnan and James Bond films. There you go.
What was your problem with GoldenEye?
GoldenEye, the music was terrible. Whoever composed the music, I know that they had problems with so basically what happened is that they hired this composer to do the film, to do GoldenEye, and the music wasn't good at all. So the director called the guy and he said, "Can you put some more James Bond music into it? You know, the theme." And the guy says no. So they hired this other composer into, you know, the tank chase. Another composer takes over. You can tell the different tones of the music. GoldenEye was good, but there's certain things in it, like Pierce Brosnan's hair was too long. You know, he was wearing a cravat. I don't know what that's all about. Do you know what I mean? But I did like GoldenEye, but I thought this one was so much better because you can tell Pierce was far more comfortable in this film than he was in GoldenEye, because obviously that was his first one. Yeah.
I mean, the little bit that I've seen, because I really haven't seen GoldenEye, I was excited to see it until I saw bits and pieces of how he acted, and it seemed he seemed stiff. He seemed real stiff in GoldenEye. And you're saying this one he seems much more fluid and sort of, you know, in his element.
Yeah. Have you not seen this one, Jason?
I haven't seen, because that turned me off when I saw him in GoldenEye, and it seemed like he wasn't really suited for it when I thought he was. Kind of turned me off.
Yeah, this one you should watch, because this one he's purely in his element. He's far more relaxed. Obviously, it was the weight of being James Bond, the new James Bond. Obviously, you can tell it weighed on him on GoldenEye. Even though he seemed confident, you can tell that it was weighing on him. But in this one, he's far more comfortable. Yeah. He's far more comfortable in this, and it's a lot of fun as well. You know, great.
The scene in the picture there where they're handcuffed together, but they still have to get away on the motorcycle, and they have to keep changing positions to, you know, because they're handcuffed together. That's really very well done. Jonathan Pryce, you're right, Ian, is a great.
He's just a Bond villain. There's nothing special about him at all, but he's just he's chewing the scenery, isn't he? He's definitely chewing the scenery.
And actually, you know what, Ian, the scene I remember for this, and it's going to be a minor spoiler if for people who have not seen it. Terry Hatcher plays an old girlfriend or past love of Bond or whatever, and when something happens to her and Bond discovers her, he's not just like the Sean Connery Bond and just goes off. He goes over to bed and he kind of like is, you know, holding her face, and then before he leaves, he puts his like forehead on hers, and you can really tell that it's like he's affected by that. And they skip over that a lot in Bond movies, and I really like that moment. I thought that was a very nice moment.
It is. It's a great film, and Martin Campbell again did a great job. He's one of the best James Bond directors. if you look at his resume, he did a great job in this. Actually, it wasn't Martin Campbell. It was Spottiswoode. Spottiswoode directed this one. He did a great job in this one. It's a shame he only did one Bond film because they should have brought him back. He actually knew what a Bond film should be, unlike the ones today, which is absolute shite. But Piers left too soon, as far as I was concerned. He had one more in him, but the screenplays are really awful. But this one is the best one, in my opinion. If you haven't had a chance to see this, put your brain in the foyer and watch this film because you would really enjoy it. It's a great James Bond film.
Yeah.
All right. Here's some facts. This movie made particularly heavy use of gadgetry because some fans thought there was too little of it in GoldenEye, which you said. As in 2019, Elliot Carver, Jonathan Pryce has a distinction of being the only James Bond villain with a spouse. Martin Campbell declined the chance to direct again, not wanting to make 2 James Bond movies in a row. He opted to direct The Mask of Zorro instead.
Yeah, it's a good film as well. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah.
Is this the only movie? Is this the only Bond movie that had the Master? Somebody who played the Master as the villain? Because Jonathan Pryce was the Master. In,
well, in a small
in the
bit,
Fatal Death.
Yeah.
I guess that counts.
It does count.
Okay.
All right.
All right, let's move on.
Is this the first? Sorry, it was the first movie that David Arnold composed to as well. Was David Arnold stuck 5 movies? Didn't he? David Arnold's brilliant. Sorry.
And I believe this is our last one, and it's Michelle's. And she chose Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country.
Very good.
Yeah, I love. I mean, who doesn't love Hamlet in Shakespeare? You know, I mean,
yeah.
I know this particular movie to try to get the Klingons and Starfleet, kind of on the same side. And I like how you have Kirk explaining how the undiscovered country, is like the fear of the future. And even today, that parallels what's going on here because people all over the world, they're afraid of the future. They don't know what's going on. So what do? Lash out. And that's what happens there. But I feel certain a majority of people have seen this. I mean, who doesn't love Star Trek?
Well, the makers don't like Star Trek. The people that actually make Star Trek.
It's like the makers of Doctor Who.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you got this, Spock, signed Kirk up. Well, we're going to be the delegates, for the Klingons. And like, you did this without asking me? Really? Yeah. You know how I feel about them, Yeah. I mean, they did kill his son. And of course, Kirk would have, problems with that. I mean, I would too. But if you dig through the deeper meaning of it, you can push past that. I just love how everything comes together. Everything works out. They figure out, how to find the ship that's cloaked that can fire. One of the scenes that I like, you have Uhura. She's this, communication specialist, speaks anything and everything. And you see them, even though they're all digital, they have all these books out and they're trying to find all these Klingon phrases and everything to respond to this outpost. And we is condemning them and things, as one of the translations. And I found it really funny. You get to Rurapente, prison planet, and you got to fight to get out of there. You got the Changeling.
Yeah.
And played by,
David Barry's wife.
Iman.
Yes. Yeah. God, such a beautiful, beautiful woman.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, God, gorgeous. Because she also played a villain, I think, in a Bond film, too.
Oh, no, that was...
No, you're confusing with Grace Jones.
Yeah, okay, Grace Jones. Okay. All right. Wrong person. But still beautiful. And she was this changeling, and she helped them escape. And it's like, well, that's a setup. It's a setup.
Yeah.
And then you get 2 Kirks, and it's like, okay, which one's which? And, they figure it out. And you get to see how when they make it back to the conference, to try to prevent this assassination, that you have all these elite figures on both sides. Even the Romulans are involved, just trying to stop all this, and it's just, such a parallel for what's going on.
It is, isn't it?
So how would you compare this to Wrath of Khan?
I still think Wrath of Khan is better because of the battle scenes in there. Definitely. Wrath of Khan more edge of the seat just because of the fighting scenes. This is more political, I believe.
It's great though.
But it is because it touches on things that humanity doesn't want to deal with, doesn't want to talk about, but it's things that should be talked about, you know, because we all have to make everything better, you know, for everybody, you know, and got to be willing to sit down and talk.
This is a
so if you were going to give Wrath of Khan, say 8.5 stars, 9 stars even, what would you give this?
I would give Undiscovered Country probably like 7.5 for me. I like the Spock dynamic with Valeris and everything, and I always wondered, you know, well, did they have some sort of relationship? Did they not? He's obviously her teacher, you know, but you know, we find out she's what she is, and I don't want to spoil it for anything, and it makes you just wonder, you know.
It's a great film.
Go ahead.
This to me is it was a great way to say goodbye to the original crew. Nicholas Meyer's touches are all over this. The scene with the books that you mentioned, that's totally Nicholas Meyer, because he treats the Enterprise as like an old-fashioned kind of sailing ship. So he injects those old, you see like the kitchen and all this kind of stuff. And The Undiscovered Country was actually Nicholas Meyer's original title for Star Trek II, because the original quote from Shakespeare referring to the undiscovered country in Shakespeare is a reference to death, which actually makes it more resonant as a title for Wrath of Khan. But they've saved it for this one, and he made it, Michelle, as you said, refer to the fear of the future. I really kind of wish, as much as I love the character of Saavik, I kind of wish that they'd been able to go with Nicholas Meyer's original plan, which is to have the Valeris character was actually originally supposed to be Saavik, which would have actually tied it back to, I mean, then you would have had that instant history with Spock. Her betrayal would have meant much more, because that would have been a character that we've already seen in other movies. So I really kind of wish that they'd been able to do that, but it was just unavailability of, I think, Kirstie Alley. They asked Kirstie Alley to come back as Saavik, but she didn't. But overall, a great, and they resolved the whole, you know, Kirk's, you know, anger toward the Klingons and everything. It's
a good movie, isn't it? It's a really good movie, and it's the last one that the original cast did, and it had a very limited budget as well. And Nicholas Meyer didn't want to direct another Star Trek movie because he was annoyed, because he directed the second one. He was annoyed that they brought back Spock, because he wanted Spock to be dead and move on from there. But they convinced him to do this one. He did a great job. Yeah. And one of the things that they never talk about is why Sulu was in charge of the Excelsior, because Sulu and Shatner didn't get on. So that was their idea, to separate them. They didn't even meet,
probably a good idea.
Meet each other on set, I don't think. But
we actually got to meet George at a convention, and my husband asked him, "What's your favorite Star Trek movie?" And he said, Star Trek VI, Captain Sulu, of course. You know, I mean, I don't blame the man. I mean, you know, he's finally a captain, and you know, for him have been a helmsman, you know, he deserved that. So, but he came in and saved the day.
Getting Christopher Plummer in this was a masterstroke. I mean, he was great in that scene where they're all sitting around dinner and they're all kind of battling around with each other. Yeah, and the way he tosses out. What was the line where he's firing on the ship and he's like, "Cry havoc and
let's slip the dogs aboard."
That's great. I mean, he was perfect.
He was. But the thing is, Nick Meyer worked with him before on Time After Time, didn't he? The film that he directed a long time ago, and also McDowell as well. So basically, he knew them, so brought them back. And also David Warner. He'd worked with David Warner before.
He was great.
So,
yeah.
Yes.
He played Jack the Ripper in Time After Time, didn't he? So
yes.
So he said they were he knew them, he brought them back, and they were just happy to work and stuff like that. But this film is terrific. It really is, from the beginning when the planet blows up to to Sulu going, "Are you kidding?" I love that line. And his cup of tea, and Christian Slater's
That's right.
guest star appearance in there. It's a great movie, but also it was a very low budget film as well, as you can tell, because most of it was set on the Enterprise, and they went and they had the studio scene with Aurora Pente and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a great movie as far as I was concerned.
All right, guys.
All right, here's some facts, and we're gonna wrap it up. The first Star Trek production to use actual computer displays on starship bridge sets. As of 2015, the only Star Trek film to show the crew's quarters. Hold on. There's an echo in here.
Not now.
Echo.
All right. As of 2015, the only Star Trek film to show the crew's quarters. The film establishes the crew's quarters are co-ed. And William Shatner had once been Christopher Plummer's understudy in the theater, which is interesting.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
He was. Yeah, he was. Great stuff.
That's crazy.
So that is our list. That is it, guys. That is it. So
how many movies do we go through? Is that like a dozen?
Kirk Enterprise.
No, I don't think it was that many because me and Jason shared some.
Oh.
So I think it was like maybe I don't know, maybe 13.
Okay.
It's a good one to end
like
on,
that.
though.
Absolutely.
Star Trek is a brilliant film.
I want to go watch it right now. I mean,
so of all the films that we listed today, which ones that you haven't seen would you go and maybe take a look at? That's for the chat and the panel.
So will you give us a list?
I'm gonna have to go back and watch Executive Decision again because it's been a long time since I've seen it, for sure. And I want to check out that James Bond movie.
Oh yeah.
That one.
Okay.
Time Never Dies is a great film. I don't know. I probably the Musketeer film, I guess, because I only saw that once in the cinema. I wasn't bowled over by it, so I'll watch it again because Gary says so.
That's fine.
Gary shows it, so I'll watch it again. See if I like.
I would go see. I've never seen it. Demolition Man. I'll watch that.
It's great. It's a great movie. It's a lot of fun.
It is.
All these films we've picked, from Jason's to Blue Bonnets to Michelle's to Gary's, they're all fun movies. As far as Jacob's Ladder isn't. Apart from that one,
Jacob's Ladder is more of a feel good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fun for the whole fam.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun today. I loved talking about 90s movies, and definitely going to have to do it again.
Let me just jump in. I didn't add this, but I do want to check out not Goldeneye, but Tomorrow Never Dies, just to see if he's more relaxed in it, because that will make a difference for me. He just seemed completely too,
Also, one of the best openings for a James Bond film. It's got a terrific opening.
Well, I don't care about that. All I care about is he relaxed.
He's relaxed all the way through.
Watch it because it's Pierce Brosnan. How about that?
Yeah.
I remember watching him in Remington Steele, and it's like, he'd make a great James Bond.
I don't think any of the Bonds was their best movie was their first one. I don't think that's true for any.
Do you know what's interesting about the James Bond films? When you talk about who played James Bond, they always say this about Pierce. Oh, he was too good looking. He looked like he stepped out of a store, the front window store. Do you know what I mean? That's bollocks. James Bond meant to be good looking. Do you know what I mean?
Right. It's James
the
Bond.
Best James Bond,
And Daniel Craig, I'll be honest, he's a good actor, but he's not good looking.
No, he's not. And I think Timothy Dalton, when he did Living Daylights, he was a handsome dude, wasn't he? Jeez, he was incredibly.
Well, come on, man.
handsome.
Roger Moore was kind of the quintessential male model at the time. You know what I mean? Like that guy was no slouch. I mean, he was an attractive man for that time.
Yeah, they all were, apart from Big Ears, Potato Face Man. Seriously, why did they cast him? I have no idea.
Wait, who are you talking about?
Now say that again. Describe Daniel Craig.
That is Daniel Craig. Okay.
Big ears,
Big
potato
ears.
face man. That's what he is.
Well, maybe
Seriously.
Daniel Craig can play a Sontaran, at some point.
So that's what we're gonna go with. Big-eared potato face man. That's the hashtag today.
If anybody's doing a crossword and the clue is big-eared potato face man, it's 5 letters, it's Craig.
You're right.
Yeah,
Right.
Never mind.
All right, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully, we'll be back next week with just our regular program. But we will definitely be doing more 90s in the future for sure, and maybe even doing some 90s comedies in the future. Kind of like doing something a little different here. Again,
Jacob's Ladder will definitely not be on the comedy.
Right, it will not. No, will not be in the comedy section. But anyway, if you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe, and hit that like button. If you like what you see here, I can't speak. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Ta-da.
Bye.
See you guys.